Lovers, Lori here. I'm back to do the second part of my January reading wrap up. So today is January 31st, so it's possible I might finish the book I'm in the middle of reading, but I doubt it because it's super big. But I just want to say that I had an incredible reading month. Again, I live in New York, so we're pretty much still in lockdown. I'm still working from home. I mean, we can go out and do things, but it's very limited. Um, and I don't have a lot of things to do, so I have been reading a lot, which has been great. And I have been tackling my TBR. I was actually able to finish one complete board on my Avengers reading challenge, except for one little square, which I'll probably finish in early February. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a mini wrap up when I finish three boards. So we'll talk about that in a future video. But I'm really liking that reading challenge. If you have not followed it or you don't know anything about it, go look on Coffee Books and Bullets Journals channel, and she has all the information because she's hosting it. But again, I had a really good reading, a good reading month, and read some quite fun reads. Second half of the month, I read some pretty solid 4-star reads, but they were all super engaging for the most part, and I really like them. So let's get into it. The first book that I'm going to chat through is Over the Woodward Wall by Deborah Baker. This book is definitely one of the most beautifully written books I've read in a long, long time. You could see all of these tabs are all quoted, so I have to go through my bullet journal probably today or tomorrow and just write down my favorite quotes because there's a lot in this book that I liked. But basically, it follows these two kids, Avery and Zeb, and they live on the two sides of a street. They don't know each other though. And then they wind up getting sucked into a magical forest and they have to find their way out. And it is just a beautiful written fairy tale. This is also written by Shauna McGuire, who is a very, very prolific fairy tale writer for the adult set. But I really love this book. I tabbed so many pages in this book just for the quotes. It was beautifully written. I think it had so many mentions about friendship, but also being brave and going out of your own comfort zone. I really, really enjoyed this one. Definitely the writing style for this book would definitely be a 5-star read. I really liked it. It's probably overall a 4-star read because I think it got very, very verbose at some points for a middle grade audience. But I really, really liked it, and I'm really excited to see what she does with the sequel. And I do want to pick up her adult books as well. The next book I read was a little bit of a disappointment, I'll be a little bit honest, and that is Crown of Bones by A.K. Wilder. I got this book from Entangled Teen to give you guys my honest thoughts, and I read about 150 pages of it, and then I just switched over to the audiobook. I will admit, I really like the characters in this book, but I really struggled with the pacing and the plot. But you have a couple of different characters. You have a young heir who is basically trying to prove that he can be king. You have a scribe, and you have a couple of other characters. And this is a world where phantoms exist. It sort of reminds me of a Patronus. You can kind of make your Patronus come or your phantom come, and it can kind of act as a defense mechanism, I guess. But they are going on an adventure to get the soon-to-be king to a training place where they can compete and practice, and things go horribly wrong. There was a lot of point of views in this story, and even though I liked all the point of views, the story was just not super compelling. So I only wound up giving it 3 stars for review. I did finish it, and I will probably check out the second book. I'm definitely going to have to reread the first book when I'm more in a headspace to read it. So I only wind up giving this one 3 stars. It was not my favorite of the month, but the highlight of this book was definitely the characters. And then the next book that I read for this was A Girl in the Blue Coat by Monica Hesse. I've had this book on my TBR for so long. This is another book that has quite a few quotes that I really do want to go through and put them in my bullet journal, which I'll probably do when I'm filming this. But this book follows a girl named Hanika, and she is in Amsterdam in 1943, and she's kind of dealing with the Germans being in control, and she works on the black market. She kind of delivers illegal things, but when she goes to one of her clients, the client tells her that a Jewish girl that was living in her house is gone missing, and she wants her to kind of hunt her down and figure out what happened to her. She kind of gets sucked into a world she did not know existed. And she's also dealing with the death of her boyfriend in the war about 6 months prior. So there's also a lot of grief talk in this book. This was a mystery that captivated me from page one. I love the characters. The pacing was really beautiful. And I thought it talked a lot about war, but in a way that I enjoy, because I am not the biggest fan of war stories like that have a large war setting, because I get super distracted. This book is like a quiet war story, but had so much heart, so many characters, talks about resistance, talks about revolution, and I really, really enjoyed it. I would probably give this book like 4.5 stars. Definitely a really, really solid read. Definitely my favorite historical fiction I've read in a while. And Monica Hesse, I have 2 other books by her that are on my TBR that I definitely want to get to. Definitely a little bit more of an emotional read, I will say that. But I really wound up enjoying this one. I wound up giving it 4.5 stars for review. The next 3 books I read are all graphic novels. I read these, I'm going to talk about these a little bit out of order, but I wanted to get to all my graphic novels together. So I was in a bit of like, I just had read a lot of fantasy back to back. So I picked up Shadow of the Batgirl by Sarah Kuhn and Nicole Groff. And this is about Cassandra Cain. I got this at ALA last year. But this is basically about Cassandra Cain trying to become Batgirl in a way. And I just really liked it. This book also had a lot of friendship elements, found family elements. Super great writing style, and I've never read anything about Cassandra Cain. I just liked this story a lot. It was very, very quick, but it just put a smile on my face at the end. I love books about found family, and this book definitely had that element. And I will definitely read more in this collection by Sarah Kuhn and Nicole Groff if they come out with any more, but I wound up really enjoying this one and giving this one 4 stars as well. And the next one I read was My Video Game Ate My Homework by Dustin Hanson. And this is just a really, really fun read. If you have some reluctant readers, I would definitely pass this along to them. But it's basically about this kid who his homework gets sucked into a video game, and he has to kind of go into his video game to protect his homework. He's not the best student, and they kind of get sucked into a video game. It's a very, very fun read. They do talk about learning struggles, friendship dynamics, but the art style is just adorable. And I really wound up liking this one as well. Gave it 3 stars. And these 2 will definitely wind up going to my students whenever we're in person again, because I think that they will get a kick out of it. And then the last comic book I read this month was Flashbacks, the 10 Terrific Tales About Science and Technology, edited by Mayim Bialik, who I love on Big Bang Theory and Call Me Kat. So this one was super interesting and definitely one of my favorite graphic novels of the month. But basically it's a series of 10 short stories, and they all kind of deal with like different questions that kids may have. What's at the bottom of the ocean? Why do polar ice caps melt? Which tool does a forensic team use to solve a crime? What is global warming? How is our galaxy unique? Why does VR so fair, and where does energy come from? And I just thought that like they were super short little issues of a comic book, but then they also answered some really harder questions for kids, and they did it in such a fun way. I think my favorite was the first one with Barry Allen, where he was being like on a crime. I like that one. I also liked the one where they went to space. I just thought it was really, really great. And also, the one thing I did like about this, and they definitely did this probably during COVID times, because they wrote like, mini lessons at the back, which as someone that is not, I'm a theater teacher, but I'm not a science teacher. Even if you're like at home with your kids and you're not teaching them, this would be something great to do on like a Friday and just kind of read a story every single Friday, and maybe do one of the extension activities in the back. You have everything that you need, what's going on, taking it further. And I just thought it was really, really great. And I think that this is such a fun book if you just need something to keep your kids entertained. But also, you kind of, there's so many different characters in this. There's like Supergirl in one, there's the Flash in one, there's Poison Ivy. I just really liked it and wound up giving this one 4 stars for review. And I'll probably pass it along to a science teacher in my school. So these will definitely get passed on to my students whenever I see them. And now I'm going to talk through the ebook and the audiobook that I finished at the tail end of the month. So the next book that I read was for a blog tour for TBR and Beyond that I am on for the month of February, and it is Of Silver and Shadows. Here is the photo. I am unsure if this book is a total standalone novel, but it really read like one. But basically, you follow this character, and she kind of has silver magic. And silver magic is it's not okay. It's like sort of illegal to have in the society because the only people that are allowed to have silver magic is the king. But when it's revealed that she has silver magic, she's basically recruited by the resistance to help take down the king. And it was a really like well crafted story, a story that I really wound up enjoying. It was very, very fast paced. Unlike Crown of Bones, this had the characters, but it also had a really, really fast paced story, one that I really liked. And it dealt with some harder topics, but also it sort of like went into like, who has power, who doesn't have power, factions, and just a little bit more politically minded story. I like the resistant elements as well, and I really thought the story was sort of like round out as like a perfect standalone. I mean, they can write more as always, but if they don't write more, I would be okay with how the story ended. I think definitely the highlight of this was the resistance elements, and I like how the story sort of wrapped up in one book because even if you do write more, I think you had a really, really solid story, and it was one that I definitely did not see coming. It was a really great read, one that I had a hard time putting down, and I wound up giving it 4.5 stars for review, and I will definitely check out more by this author in the future. And then the last audiobook that I finished in the month of January was Because of Bridgerton. I've been trying to read at least the first two books so I can go back and finish the series, but I also was wound up to complete book 2, which is The Viscount Who Loves Me, which is Anthony's book, and here's a photo. Is just I found this book to be super charming. I really liked Kate as a main character. I loved Anthony. Definitely dived into Anthony more in this book. I will probably say I think I did prefer The Duke and I a little bit more than this one, but I did like it. I thought it was really interesting. I love seeing the Bridgerton family again, and I love just the court politics and like the society norms that the Bridgertons always try to flaunt. But I really, really enjoyed this. I'm definitely excited for Colin's book because it's definitely the one I'm looking the most forward to, especially connecting back to the TV series. But yeah, I really wound up enjoying this one, and I'm really happy that I was able to read another one, and I hope to keep that trend going in the future. And then the last book I finished in the month of January was Graceling by Kristin Cashore. This is a much older fantasy series. This one probably came out in 2008. But this follows a girl named Costa, and she is basically Grace. She is killed. She's really, really good at killing people. And she goes on an adventure. She basically has her own her own I guess I'd call a ring of people that save other people because she feels bad that her powers are used for the king in bad ways. So she kind of takes it upon herself to kind of save some people, and it leads her to save the king, the grandfather of another kingdom, and it kind of sends her on an adventure that she was not necessarily expecting. I will say this book changed settings a lot, and I like that. I think there was a lot of different elements in this book that definitely changed throughout the reading of it. The romance was really fun and not what I expected, and it was definitely a side story. There was a lot of side characters that I liked, and it was just super fun to read. I'm really excited for book 3, and I'm definitely going to reach book 2 next month. But this was such a fun series. Definitely not what I was expecting when I picked up an older fantasy series. They're normally very heavy on romance. This is super heavy on the romance, but I like the balance that the author struck, and I'm really excited to read book 2 in the future. But yeah, guys, that's all the books, well, the rest of the books that I wound up finishing for the month of January. Let me know what are some of your top reads in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys for my next video. Bye.